Port Charles woke up uneasy, as if the town itself sensed something was about to change. The river shimmered under gray skies, and whispers moved faster than the morning fog. At the center of it all stood Valentin Cassadine, calm, calculated, and once again 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Carly Spencer felt it before she understood it. It wasn't fear exactly. It was the unsettling realization that the ground beneath her was shifting, and she hadn't seen the cracks forming. Valentin had returned quietly, without announcements or dramatic entrances. No one noticed at first that meetings were being rescheduled, alliances subtly redirected, and decisions delayed just long enough to create confusion. Carly noticed something was wrong when a long-planned business deal collapsed at the final hour. Documents withdrawn, signatures missing, confidence shaken. Every trail led back to Valentin, but when she confronted him, he didn't deny anything. Instead, he smiled. "You assume control must be loud," Valentin said smoothly, folding his hands. "True power is invisible until it's already won." Carly bristled. She had faced manipulation before, but this felt different. Valentin wasn't attacking her directly. He was isolating her, turning uncertainty into a cage she didn't know how to escape. Friends stopped returning her calls as quickly. Meetings grew tense. Even Sunny, usually her anchor, seemed distracted, caught between loyalty and concern. Carly felt cornered not by threats, but by doubt. Doubt Valentin had planted expertly. She accused him of undermining her. He corrected her. "I'm protecting you from truths you are not yet ready to face." That chilled her more than any argument could have. While the adults maneuvered, Charlotte Cassadine observed quietly. No longer the child everyone dismissed, she listened carefully, remembered everything, and connected dots others ignored. Charlotte had been carrying a secret, one she never intended to reveal, until now. She had overheard a conversation weeks earlier, late at night when she was supposed to be asleep. Voices echoed through the house, Valentin's and another she recognized instantly, Carly's. But it wasn't the conversation that haunted Charlotte. It was what Valentin said afterward, alone, into the darkness. "The truth always demands its moment," he whispered, "and when it arrives, nothing remains the same." Charlotte didn't fully understand then. She did now. Tension exploded at a public charity event meant to bring Port Charles together. Instead, it became the stage for unraveling truths. Carly arrived determined to reclaim control, ready to confront Valentin in front of everyone. But before she could speak, Charlotte stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. "You're all being played," Charlotte said, eyes fixed on Carly, "and it started long before any of you noticed." Gasps rippled through the room. Valentin froze. Carly turned slowly. "Charlotte? What are you talking about?" Charlotte swallowed hard. "You deserve to know why Valentin won't let you go." Charlotte revealed what she had overheard, fragments of a past connection Carly had no memory of, buried beneath years of emotional survival and half-truths. A decision Carly made once, believing it was the right thing to do, had altered Valentin's life forever. Not a crime, a choice, one that redirected destinies. Valentin had rebuilt himself around that moment, not for revenge, but for resolution. His control wasn't about power over Carly. It was about forcing her to see what she had unknowingly taken from him. Carly staggered under the weight of it. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I know," Valentin replied quietly. "That's what makes it unbearable." The town reacted instantly. Some sided with Carly, insisting she was being manipulated by a man who refused to let go of the past. Others questioned whether Carly's long history of decisive actions had consequences she never faced. Sunny stood torn between defense and doubt. Laura worried about Valentin losing himself to obsession. And Charlotte, caught in the center, realized that telling the truth had not brought relief, it had only deepened the chaos. Refusing to remain trapped, Carly demanded answers, not from Valentin, but from herself. She dug into old records, conversations, and forgotten moments.
Slowly, pieces returned, memories she had buried because they were inconvenient, painful, or complicated. She hadn't meant to hurt Valentin, but she had, and acknowledging that changed everything. Carly confronted him one last time, not in anger, but clarity. "You don't get to decide my future because of your pain, but I won't deny it anymore." Valentin's control wavered for the first time. Charlotte made a decision of her own. She refused to be used by anyone. Standing between Carly and Valentin, she spoke with maturity far beyond her years. "You both taught me something, that secrets don't protect people, they poison them." Her words landed harder than any accusation. Valentin stepped back, not defeated, but changed. Control slipped from his hands, replaced by something unfamiliar, uncertainty. Carly reclaimed her footing, not by dominance, but by truth. Port Charles didn't return to normal. It never does. But alliances shifted, lines blurred, and the town learned once again that the most dangerous storms aren't loud. They begin quietly, inside the people who think they're in control. And somewhere in the shadows, someone else was watching. Because in Port Charles, every secret is only the
silence after
beginning.
Charlotte's words was heavier than any argument. People left the room slowly, uncertain who they were angry with or afraid of. Carly didn't leave. Neither did Valentin. That night, Port Charles felt smaller. The lights along the waterfront flickered, and conversations died the moment someone entered a room. Truth had cracked the surface, but nothing had healed. Carly sat alone in her office long after midnight, staring at a single document she had finally uncovered, an agreement from years ago, signed in haste, never meant to be permanent. Yet it was, and it had cost Valentin more than she ever imagined. She whispered to herself, "I thought I was saving everyone." But the truth was colder. She had saved herself. Across town, Valentin stood by the window of Windermere, the city glowing faintly in the distance. For the first time in years, he wasn't planning his next move. He was remembering. Every calculated step he'd taken wasn't about punishment. It was about forcing fate to pause long enough for him to breathe again. But Charlotte's revelation had changed the rules. Control without trust was hollow, and trust was something he had lost long ago. Carly learned quickly that telling the truth doesn't make you popular. Some people avoided her. Others looked at her with suspicion. A few praised her bravery, but none asked how she was holding up. Laura tried to reassure her. "You did the right thing," she said gently. Carly nodded, but her eyes were distant. Doing the right thing doesn't stop people from getting hurt. She was no longer a child protected by ignorance. She was awake now. Sonny confronted Carly, not with anger, but something far more dangerous: disappointment. "You should have told me," he said quietly. "I didn't know how, and then it felt too late." Sonny exhaled slowly. Late doesn't mean impossible, but secrets change everything. For the first time in a long while, Sonny didn't take her side automatically, and Carly felt the ground shift again, this time because of her own choices. Just when Port Charles thought the chaos had peaked, a name resurfaced from the past, someone connected to that long-buried agreement Carly signed, someone who benefited quietly, someone who had been watching Valentin and Carly collide, waiting. A meeting was arranged in secret. Valentin arrived first, then Carly. Neither expected the third chair to be occupied. "You both forgot about me," the stranger said calmly, "but I never forgot you." The realization hit at the same time. They hadn't just hurt each other, they had been used. The stranger revealed what Valentin never knew and what Carly never questioned. The agreement wasn't a solution, it was leverage. Every move Valentin made, every door that closed around Carly, had been subtly guided by someone who understood their weaknesses perfectly, someone who knew Port Charles thrived on divided loyalties. Valentin clenched his jaw. "You let me believe this was my choice." The stranger smiled. "You wanted it to be." Fate has a cruel sense of humor. Charlotte, returning to retrieve something she'd forgotten, heard enough to understand one terrifying truth. This was bigger than Carly, bigger than Valentin, and far from over. She didn't tell anyone, not yet, because this time the truth needed timing. Carly made a decision. No more reacting, no more defending, no more hiding. She called a meeting, open and honest and impossible to ignore. "If my choices hurt people," she said, standing firm, "then I'll face that. But I won't let anyone rewrite my story behind my back ever again." It wasn't a declaration of war. It was a boundary, and it worked. Valentin surprised everyone, including himself. He didn't counterattack. He aligned. Controlled Gulton's silence collapses, I learned, too late. Together, but not comfortably, Carly and Valentin began dismantling the unseen hands, manipulating them both. Enemies don't have to forgive, they just have to understand the real threat. As Port Charles adjusted to this fragile new balance, Charlotte stood alone on the pier, staring into the dark water. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You did well staying quiet. Now decide whose side you're really on." Charlotte didn't respond. She slipped the phone into her pocket and whispered, "I won't be anyone's weapon." But somewhere in the city, someone smiled. Because in Port Charles, the next secret is always closer than you think.